I think I spelled it out pretty clearly in my little written paragraph here. My approach to tax incentives, Mike, is to look at them on a case-by-case basis. I've always done that. My belief is that when a business cannot get started or cannot grow without some assistance, then it's, I believe, the city's responsibility to sit down at the table and see how we might get involved. The goals that they have, this purpose of this new business or the growth of the business has got to be where it's going to also help the city. And that's what we have to evaluate. An example I used in one of my recent explanations of this is that you take a look at 4204 West Main Street. That property sat empty for many years. Working with the owners to bring a restaurant and a new brewery has created jobs, increased tax revenue, created positive attention to that area, and filled an empty building that's been empty a long time at that location on West Main. So there's an example where the incentives, I believe, truly paid off. Now take it a step further, 4204 now, today, is growing again at the 6401 West Main location, which, as you know, was another troubled older shopping center that was very blighted, and it's all a part of a major facelift now of lifting that area up and bringing it back. And here 4204, where we took the risk to work with them at their original location, now they're expanding to help us in a second much needed location. My opponent has said he doesn't want to give any business any tax incentives, and I disagree with him respectfully, because I believe, one, we're going to be missing out on some great opportunities to fill some spaces, create some jobs, and increase our sales tax. And at the same time, many people, including my opponent, always talk about hiring more police officers. If we don't grow our sales tax, that is impossible to do. So I think we have to continue to look at tax incentives on a case-by-case basis. I also think, Mike, that tax incentives many times get poorly explained or editorialized after we do certain things. Talked about, tax incentives for businesses, in my opinion, businesses that are project driven. If a business comes in, and let's use the Edge was a recent one that was talked about. That property was also an empty property in the middle of a school neighborhood. For many years, it was not functioning like it should. This is actually the second or third phase of what they've been doing. But if it not for our involvement and our partnership, that business would either not be there today or would not be growing at the rate it is. They keep adding jobs. They're definitely bringing in more and more sales tax. And they have continued to lift up that particular neighborhood by becoming a destination. And they're really an entertainment venue in the whole region. Had we taken the approach that we were not going to work with them, we could have another empty space and also then, once again, less sales tax in our coffers. We are giving incentives to, let's look at the Belleville Crossing. That shopping center was mostly fields, was not in the city of Belleville, unincorporated, and we were getting not one dime off of anything out there. There was no jobs, no sales tax, no property tax. And when Belleville Crossing came along and they wanted to build a new Target and Home Depot, we agreed to create the TIF and to create a business district and to grant them sales tax abatement on building materials. We didn't give them any money up front. If they didn't build it, if they didn't take the property tax, which was very, very low on farmland, up to an unbelievable amount on that new construction of that major shopping center, if they didn't build it, pay their taxes, they didn't get a rebate. Only then did they get a rebate from that TIF. And it's set for so many years, it's got a timeline, and there's a cap. Now, they invested probably about 90 million on that project initially, and their maximum, I believe, is 18 million. I believe that's the correct amount. I can check that for you, but I believe the cap is about 18 million is what they could get back from their own taxes, which they pay. But Mike, you know as well as I do, there are certain people in the public, including my opponent, who wants to tell the public that we're giving away taxpayers' dollars. No, we're rebating tax dollars to this corporation that, if not building at that location, wouldn't ever be paying the tax. And it's a misconception of tax incentives the way they state them. We gave them no money up front. Now the business district, the 1% business district overlay, if you and I or anybody else doesn't choose to go to Target or Home Depot to shop, you don't pay it. It's not assessed on anybody shopping anywhere else. And the sales tax abatement on building materials basically is a state program that they can get on their own for the most part. We just have to have the enterprise district created, which we do. And so we're not handing them any upfront money. We're not handing them any sales tax from anybody else. And it's just a myth. And one of the criticisms I was getting at that time from the two candidates running against me then was my support. In fact, if I believe I'm correct, I broke the tie in bringing Ruler Foods to Belleville. We assisted them with $200,000 to tear down the old Bel Air Bowl. It was a blighted building. It was boarded up. It had been empty for at least, I believe, 6 to 7 years. That project, from what I was told not too long ago, that Ruler Food is like third or fourth busiest in the Midwest. We projected that we would bring about $100,000 a year sales tax. While we don't get to see the exact amount, I am told from talking to officials that they have exceeded their expectations. They created some jobs, we cleaned up a blighted area, and we have long already been paid back well over, since they started that project 4 years ago or 3 years ago, it's been going. We have well made back the $200,000 that we invested in that, and that was the only thing we invested in that project, was to invest in the demolition of that property. So I believe our tax incentive program, the way we have judged them and we have presented them, have proven to be good adventures. There's many more that we get criticized for, but I think a lot of people just don't know the whole truth. Or maybe some people don't care to know the whole truth. But we're not giving away your or my tax dollars. These people are having to perform, to build, to pay their taxes, and then they get a rebate. And that's the way 90% of it is these days.
Okay.